SportsCenter anchor Jemele Hill from ESPN is facing quite a bit of backlash from conservatives after she made her feelings about Trump very well known on Twitter. So Monday night, she got into a little bit of a Twitter tiff with an individual who apparently was supportive of Kid Rock. The conversation began with a conversation with a statement regarding Kid Rock and how frustrated he is that people think he's racist because he says racist things. And so Jemele Hill responded to this individual by saying the following: Donald Trump is a white supremacist who has largely surrounded himself with other white supremacists. She continued to tweet that Trump is the most ignorant, offensive president of my lifetime. His rise is a direct result of white supremacy, period. And another tweet said that Donald Trump is a bigot. Glad you could live with voting for him. I couldn't because I cared about more than just myself. Now, this led to a bunch of people who were very, very hurt, very offended that she would have the audacity to speak her mind and tell the truth about Donald Trump on Twitter. And so ESPN responded with this following statement. Let's take a look. The comments on Twitter from Jemele Hill regarding the president do not represent the position of ESPN. We have addressed this with Jemele, and she recognizes her actions were inappropriate. So as far as we know at the moment, that was the extent of the consequences that Jemele Hill faced. A little bit of a slap on the wrist, if you will, on Twitter. And that further infuriated conservatives because they felt that it was unfair treatment compared to other hosts on ESPN who were either suspended or fired because of their political statements. These were conservatives who made some political statements. And we'll get to that in just a second. But before we do so, what do you guys think about what she had to say on Twitter? Was that deeply offensive? And should she lose her job as a result?
Deeply offensive. That's funny to say. She deeply offended the people who are committed to hate of other people with different skin. That's what that sounds like. So
she sounded really intolerant of intolerance.
Yes, that's
it was very intolerant.
So Donald Trump has made no secret of his affection for white supremacists, neo-Nazis, alt whatever. So he's made it no secret.
He has made it no secret. In fact, we have some evidence of that, okay? Here is a video montage of Trump's reactions after the hate rally in Charlottesville, where a 31-year-old woman by the name of Heather Heyer was run over by a white supremacist. Take a look.
This egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides. On many sides. Define alt-right to me. You define it. Go ahead.
Well, I'm saying,
define it for me. Come on, let's go. Define
Senator
it.
McCain defined them as the same group.
Okay, what about the alt-left that came charging at him? Excuse me. What about the alt-left that came charging at the, as you say, the alt-right? And nobody wants to say that, but I'll say it right now. You had a group on the other side that came charging in without a permit.
Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue. And I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. Excuse me, are we gonna take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? Because he was a major slave owner. Now we're gonna take down his statue. You're changing history, you're changing culture.
Okay, now couple that with the statements he made about Mexicans being rapists and criminals.
And the Mexican judge couldn't be a good judge because he was Mexican.
Judge could be,
Muslims who were cheering.
The Muslim ban. I mean, it just on and on and on. I mean, referring to Muslim, generalizing about Muslims being terrorists, wanting to build a wall. Early on in his campaign, refusing to condemn David Duke, who was a KKK leader who supported him. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So what part of Hill's statement was offensive? Was it the truth?
Yes.
Did the truth hurt your feelings?
Yes, it
Because
does.
here's the reality, he is a white supremacist. If that offends you, then maybe you should reconsider your support of Donald Trump, right?
Well, and we can go way beyond when he was like on the campaign trail. I mean, we can go back to when the discriminatory housing practices.
Right.
We can go back to when he called for the heads of 5 black guys that did not commit the murder, that were innocent.
And never apologized.
Never apologized for it. Still stands by what he did.
Yeah. He called for their execution.
What about what about him chasing the president around, asking for his birth certificate?
Yeah.
I mean, it goes on and on. So if you are offended by Jemele Hill calling him a white supremacist, you need to really reevaluate who you're supporting. Because the reality is you are supporting a white supremacist. If the truth hurts, then you can continue trying to live under a rock, but this is the reality of the situation. Now, let me give you, what some believe is a double standard. There's this criticism that ESPN is a liberal outlet. They're such lefties that they will punish conservative individuals who work for the channel, but they won't really punish people like Jemele Hill. So let's hear from one person. Sean Davis says, Curt Schilling, great athlete, Linda Cohn, successful broadcaster, Jemele Hill, bad at her job but hates Trump. Guess who's still on air? Another person says that didn't Curt Schilling get run out of town for a meme? Yes, he did get run out of town for a meme. So let's first of all take a quick look at that meme. This was a baseball analyst on on ESPN who ended up getting suspended, and this is the meme that he shared on Facebook, showing his version of a transgender individual and chiming in with commentary about allowing transgender individuals to use the bathroom that they identify with. So that image, that's not the truth. Okay, that image is making a generalization about an entire population of people, but that wasn't his first offense. Curt Schilling got in trouble quite a few times with ESPN. Let's give you graphic 33. For instance, in 2015, Schilling was suspended from the network for posting a meme to Twitter comparing Muslim extremists to Nazis. Schilling later apologized for the tweet and called it a bad decision and 100% my fault. 6 months later, Schilling said during an interview that then presidential candidate Hillary Clinton should be, quote, buried under a jail somewhere in reference to her email scandal. Just 1 month later, Schilling was fired when he shared, he was fired, not suspended, just to correct myself. When he shared a Facebook post in response to the North Carolina law that bars transgender people from using bathrooms that do not correspond to their gender of birth. He was warned repeatedly by ESPN that he could not continue with these political statements, especially considering the fact that they were defamatory, that they were actually offensive and not grounded in truth. And he did not listen, and so yeah, he got fired. So comparing Jemele Hill to Schilling is ridiculous to say the least. You can't equate the two, but they will. They'll continue to equate the two. And you know what, conservatives, you don't like ESPN, you think it's a liberal station, then don't watch ESPN. Move on with your life.
And this goes into something, the media can't be passive. The year is 2017 in the contemporary United States. We are actually fighting Nazis, and no, this is not an Indiana Jones movie, this is real life. We can't be passive with terms anymore. Trump didn't say something controversial, Trump said something racist. In other countries, when they have fringe politicians that subscribe to hate ideology, they identify it as such. They will say anti-Semitic candidate X or whatever the descriptor is. In the United States, we don't do that because we have a for-profit corporate media that thrives on access. But maybe it's time we start. It's too bad that it's someone in the sports arena that's actually doing it, but I have no problem with it.
That's the thing. You should be proud of who you're supporting, as far as if you're supporting this guy or your president. So when the Trayvon Martin thing went down, and President Obama came out openly, explicitly said, Trayvon could have been my son. He supported the people that were outraged about this murder. So if someone then came to me and then said, hey, your president supports the people that are outraged about Trayvon Martin, I'd say, yes, I agree, he does. So when your president steps out and supports white supremacy and neo-Nazis, be proud of that.
Yes.
He openly and explicitly supported who you wanted him to support.
Why are you
so
embarrassed?
Agree with him. What are you embarrassed about your position for? I'm not embarrassed that President Obama supported the people that were mad about what happened with Trayvon Martin. I'm not embarrassed about that at all. So if you say, I can't believe it, or if someone from ESPN decides to tweet and say, hey, you know what? President Obama, I can't believe he supported Trayvon Martin. I was like, it's crazy you can't believe it. I agree he did. It's just the truth. So don't get mad when she says what it is your president does. That's all it was. And she's disgusted by it. Okay, maybe if you're disgusted that Obama supported Trayvon Martin, then okay. Yeah. I know who you are.
And also the people calling for her to get fired. Those are the people that crack me up the most because these are also the exact same people that throw feces as soon as they hear about Berkeley protesting a conservative speaker, because it's free speech, right? You want to hear differing perspectives, right? You don't want to shut people up just because you disagree with their political perspective, right? Right? No. It's all disingenuous bullshit, and you see it over and over again.
That's funny.
And so, look, I
never even thought about that.
Again, what Jemele Hill said was the truth, and there's evidence to back it up, okay? She didn't say something incredibly offensive and not grounded in truth about a specific community of people. She's not being defamatory. She's not doing anything that's objectionable to anyone that has any common sense. And so if it offends you, again, if the truth offends you, you have to ask yourself why. Okay, are you in complete denial over who Trump really is? And if you are, then educate yourself, because that's what the reality is. He ran on a campaign that focused primarily on dividing people, on pitting the least powerful people in this country against one another over racism and bigotry and hate. And he did it over and over again. And guess what? The more he did it, the more his supporters loved him.
Help us build independent media together. TYTnetwork.com/join.